Hello, everyone, and welcome. Here we are at 7:05, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started with our panel. Thank you all for joining us here tonight. My name is Billy Fettweis. I'm the Chief Development Officer at Horton's Kids, and I'm excited to be here virtually with all of you to discuss something that I think has been on all of our minds since schools went virtual in March, and that is how do we ensure that children across the region have access to an equitable education. At Horton's Kids, we've been thinking about it all day, every day, and I'm so glad to be joined by three people who are experts and leaders in the field who are going to give us some insight into what their work has been, what they've been learning, and how you can support us. So I'll allow them to introduce themselves in a moment, but we're going to have a fast-paced conversation tonight. Hopefully we'll have some time left over at the end for questions from you all. So if you want to use the chat feature to ask questions, you can also use the chat feature to talk amongst yourselves. With that, we can go ahead and get started. You want to go? Well, so each of you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization you're representing with you? Why don't we start with Mike?
All right, thank you, Billy. Thanks everyone for joining. I am Mike DiMarco. I'm the Executive Director at Horizons Greater Washington. At Horizons, we help students from low-income families close the academic achievement gap by providing them with high-quality learning each summer from their first grade year all the way to their ninth grade year, working in partnership with their families to make this happen over the course of 9 years. As part of our program, when we aren't virtual, we teach all Horizons students to swim. This addresses historic inequity around swimming access and skills, builds pride, and teaches confidence that translates from the pool to the classroom. And our aim, by cultivating both academic and life skills, and pairing our students with highly qualified educators. Actually, this summer, 76% of our teachers had master's degrees, is to help build long-term and lasting success. What we most want for our students is for them to feel empowered, to reach their full potential and achieve their own dreams, whatever that may be.
Brandelyn, why don't you go next?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Brandelyn Anderson, and I'm the Executive Director at For Love of Children. We provide education services for under-resourced students in Washington, D.C. by providing one-on-one tutoring in reading and math for 2nd through 12th grade students, and college prep, college access, and career exploration for middle school and high school students with our City Leaders program. And then we also provide support, resources, and scholarships for our college students. And so we track them through college and career. And fun fact, today is Flock's 55th anniversary. So we were established today in 1965. So it's been a wonderful day of celebrations, and I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you, Brandelyn. And Cheryl, last but certainly not least.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Billy. I'm really glad to be here tonight with Mike and Brandelyn and everyone else that's here. I am the Executive Director of Peace of Mind. We're an educational nonprofit here in DC, and we support the teaching of mindfulness and neuroscience-based social emotional learning, conflict resolution, and social justice in our schools. And we start working in early childhood with educators to deliver these programs and carry on through middle school. And we work in public charter, and some independent schools in the DC area, and reach around 3,000 to 3,500 kids a year through the program. I think tending to our children's social and emotional needs is the most important thing we can be doing right now. I think it's at the bedrock of engagement when the way we talk about access and engagement. So I'm just really grateful for this time to talk about it together. How do we tend to the needs of our children in ways that really keep them engaged in the virtual community and in the classroom once we get back. So thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cheryl, and welcome. There are a few folks who joined us as we were just getting started with our introduction. So welcome to the Access to Equitable Education panel. And the next thing that I would love to hear from each of you about is a question that I hear all the time, and I'm sure you do as well. How are kids doing? And what challenges are they facing in this all virtual world? Mike, do you want to kick us off?
Sure, happy to kick us off. So the challenges that we're facing, well, I think we're all facing a lot of challenges. And we serve students in Horizons, we serve students in DC and Montgomery County. In DC, our students come from the 3 neighborhoods with the 3 highest number of COVID cases: Columbia Heights, Brightwood, 16th Street Heights. So this crisis has completely decimated our communities and our families. I can't tell you the number of calls and texts and emails I've received from our students and their loved ones because someone in their families contracted the virus, they're sick, they've lost their job, or they've lost a loved one. And as you can imagine, this has major impacts on abilities to learn and focus on learning and academic achievement. This just widens the inequities that already exist and are why all of our organizations exist already. And this was recently highlighted by the Washington Post, which said that this pandemic is deepening inequities, particularly in early literacy, and showed that Black students are showing a 14% drop and Latino students are showing a 12% drop in literacy skills. So amid those very basic and heartbreaking realities, we've been working really hard, like everyone is, to make virtual learning engaging and culturally relevant. So one thing that we did really well this summer was we delivered Horizons at Home kits to over 300 Horizons students this summer who enrolled in our summer program. This meant that our project-based hands-on learning that is a hallmark of our program and really popular could continue in a virtual way. And one example of that, this was my favorite example from the summer, is our rising first and second grade students made a chomping dinosaur head as a way to extend their study of learning about dinosaurs as well as studying simple machines. And our families of students who attend Bandcraft actually followed up with the school's principal to say, hey, can we get those science kits and curriculum for our students for the school year this year?
Wonderful. And I'm sorry to hear about the losses that your community has experienced in the last several months. That's tough, especially for kids in that environment. Brandelyn, what have you experienced? How are the kids in Flock doing, and what challenges are what are they experiencing?
So when COVID first hit and we went to virtual, the biggest challenge we found was access to technology, access to Wi-Fi. So we were sort of handing out all of our in-house student computers, like, sure, just take it, we'll figure it out later. And so once things sort of settled down, we were really very concerned about our college students and them abruptly having to leave their campuses, not having the resources. One of our students was doing her homework on her phone. You can't do that. So really doing our best to make sure that we were able to provide whatever we could. We were talking to donors, can we, reconfigure these funds so we could purchase more computers? We were able to do that as well. But I have to say that overall, our engagement has remained very, very strong. One of the things that Flock is most known for is our volunteer base. We have over 350 volunteers that work with Flock, and it's those relationships, like our students have one-on-one support from their tutors, and so they're really excited about seeing their tutors every week. And we've seen like an uptick in engagement, and we've seen an uptick in parent engagement. So our parents have been very active, very responsive, and it's really been great to hear that Flock has been able to provide some sort of normalcy from the kids. We've increased our activities, our competitions, send us pictures, what are you guys doing? And just really making sure we're keeping in touch. And I think that's something that we've been able to offer a lifeline to our students who are really just trying to figure out what's going on.
Perfect, thanks, Brandelyn. And Cheryl, what are you seeing?
Yeah,
how would you say, how are the kids doing?
Really appreciate hearing from you guys. Well, we focus a lot on children's social and emotional learning, and that's what our program is geared at. So in talking to teachers around the city, we're hearing much of the same, and we were hearing much of the same in the spring, that kids are struggling with anxiety, with insomnia, with sort of the feeling of isolation from their friends, and the fear and the actual experience of what happens when a loved one gets sick or dies. And these are traumatic events. And this is on top of all the usual childhood challenges around relationships and managing big emotions and getting on with your siblings who you're now living with all the time, and the things that children face every day. So, and for many, like the daily impact of discrimination or bias, systemic injustice. So as Mike's mentioning and Brandelyn's alluding to, like the inequities only go deeper in this time. So we see that. So I think with engagement, the thing that we think about is we can't expect our children to engage fully if we can't tend to their social and emotional needs. Like right now in the virtual classroom environment, but also when we return safely to school buildings. So I think what we are seeing and what we're glad to see is that mindfulness and compassion practices, even virtually, can really help. Kids tell us that the mindfulness practices they're learning are helping them calm their anxiety, increase their focus, even virtually, in lessons and balance out our brain's negativity bias, sort of our tendency to focus on the negative or what we're missing or what's wrong instead of what we actually have and what's possible right now. So kids need a space now to practice compassion for themselves and others. And we're finding that this actually surprisingly works virtually. We weren't sure that it would. And it's powerful for us now and powerful for our educators too. So that's what we're seeing. And once children feel the benefits of these practices, it's not hard to have them engage. If they're ready to engage, and they become a foundation for academic engagement. So.
Well, and Cheryl, I know that the folks who were speaking on the opening panel this evening were also talking about those same kind of practices that they as adults were doing. I think many of the practices that all of us are trying to figure out, how do we cope with the day-to-day of the challenge, and certainly can apply to children. One thing that I'd love to know more about, and something that we've seen at Horton Kids as well, is certainly the technology challenges that Brandelyn talked about, or something, a challenge that we had to overcome, but also thinking about how do you incentivize kids to engage and log in after, how do you take it to school, but also after a long day of school. Kids are experiencing Zoom fatigue, just like adults are. You know, Cheryl, I heard you talk a little bit about some of they get intrinsic rewards from the programs. Brandelyn, I heard you talk about having some competition among kids. So what are you doing to keep kids engaged and making sure that they continue to access those services that you all are providing to help reduce the learning loss and the education barriers that we've been discussing? I'll let anyone jump in. Brandelyn, go ahead.
We have a bit of an unfair advantage, and it goes back to our tutors. They love seeing their tutors. So our student is paired with one tutor for the entire semester or school year, sort of depending on, you know, how life takes people, and they get to build that relationship. So they really do look forward to seeing their tutor every week. One thing we also did was we also added electives. So in addition to our tutoring, we have cooking classes, yoga classes. Every week there's a different menu of electives that the students can sign up for. It's all virtual, and it just sort of adds a little bit of fun. We do have parents who are, you know, actively ensuring that their children are participating in Flock. And that's also been very, very helpful. They're very grateful that we're offering these opportunities, and while they're working from home, we're giving them more things to do and supporting them. And just really thinking about, we have a project going on where students are actually writing a children's book about, they want to attend a Black Lives Matter protest. They can't because of COVID. So the kids in the book decide to create an art protest. So kids can walk, so people can walk through Rock Creek Park and see this art protest. So the students are currently working on that project, and they'll be published authors in a few weeks. So we're really excited about, you know, just being able to provide a diverse opportunities for our students on top of our traditional programming.
Wonderful.
We've also seen this parent involvement has really risen in some ways, like through the virtual learning, and that brings kids in, but it's also bringing the parents in to kind of learn the same practices and practice together with their kids. And that's been a beautiful benefit of this time, just to see how kids already teach the practices that they're learning to their families, but when the parent can actually really experience the class at the same time, it strengthens that bond. And I'm sure that helps with engagement. And it helps the family too, which has been really helpful to see. So I think that's another way to keep kids engaged. And also, I think we're all trying to think about community in this time, like how do we build community virtually? And one of the ways that we can do that is by taking some of the practices from the in-classroom curriculum and adapting them virtually. So we have, for example, a practice of kindness pals, where each week the kids, you know, pairs of kids in a class become kindness pals for each other and do kind things during the week. And that might be sending a kind chat message or working together on a project in a virtual environment. But it means that kids really want to get there to see their pal, and they really want to get there to be part of that class community. So there are different ways.
And Mike, before you continue here, because I want to know how you're driving engagement, I just want to remind the attendees as well that we welcome your questions. So if you have questions for the panelists, please put them in the session chat on the right side of the screen, and we're happy to weave them in if we have time. But Mike, go ahead. Well, what are you seeing in engagement? How are you encouraging kids to take advantage of your services?
Yeah, so just echo what Brandelyn and Cheryl said. I think the first thing is leaning into our relationships. I think that's a strength that we have in the out of school time space. At Horizons, we have a 9-year commitment with our families. Yeah. The typical Horizons teacher has a master's degree, 11 years of teaching experience, and multiple years of being at Horizons. And one of the things that we did early in this summer is that as COVID first hit, we did 3 things to help with engagement. First, we connected with our parents right away, and we listened and we said, what do you need? And what they said is, we need some help with programming. We started 8 weeks earlier, doing a lot more social emotional work in the spring, 8 weeks before we had planned to do it. Second is that we kept all of our staff on for this summer so that we were able to continue doing small group learning. And one of a board member who came on a tour of our program this summer said, you can see there's a lot of love in the bank in this program, because you can see those relationships were happening over Zoom. And then third, the parents as partners, as we mentioned, the parents weren't just partners in helping us plan it, they were our teachers this summer. And so we needed to communicate, and we saw a lot of engagement with our parents. One really quick, beautiful story that we had was Ruben, a 3rd grade student. His dad was a cook. He lost his job in the pandemic. And he said, this summer we were on the edge about having Ruben come. Spring learning was hard for him, but being project-based, it helped him be engaged, and it brought us closer together. And then we found that Ruben loves STEM, and when our site director heard that, he delivered STEM kits for 4th and 5th grade to Ruben so that him and his dad could work on that as well. And I think that is how you drive engagement, by being able to listen to families, meet them where they are, and then provide the supports and opportunities for everybody.
So, Kari just added relationships matter. We're certainly seeing that at Horton's Kids.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I don't have any, there aren't a ton, I don't see any questions coming in from the audience, so I'm just going to keep going. And so one thing that I've noticed at Horton's Kids is that our donors are really making a huge difference right now. I didn't know, if you'd asked me a year ago, I would not be telling you that we'd be spending so much money on Wi-Fi hotspots.
Right.
And I think that one of the things that I bet the folks in the room are interested in learning is, what are the kinds of things, how are donors helping you in unexpected ways during this period?
Oh man, so I was responding to this question, a similar question recently, and I was just saying, this experience has brought out the best in humanity, and so donors are being so gracious and wonderful. Like, we met with our board, and we're going to figure out how to give additional funding. We're going to allow you to, reconfigure your funds to do whatever it is that you need. Just move it to general operating. What else can we do to support? How else can we help, you all keep going? Like, how can we support your mission? And it's just been really wonderful just to feel that support. And I was on the call with a donor once, and she was like, Brandelyn, how are you? And I was like, to ask that question, it was just like, wait, I'm okay, so it's just nice to just see people really rally, and then also connecting organizations with each other. I think the best way we'll get through this is to collaborate. So, I have this other organization who does this, this, and this. Let me connect you all. And so we have partnerships that we've never had before because of those donor connections. And so it's been really lovely just having donors be so supportive in a myriad of ways.
I can just jump in quickly and say, we've had donors, we had to provide these services on faith that the money would be there because our family and community needed it, and we had no choice but to respond. And so we had to do it on faith, and we had some foundations step up and provide extra funding for a traditional program. We had another funder provide programming for food, recognizing what food insecurity would do. And similarly, we have a board member who helped recognizing that 100% of Horizons families receive free and reduced meals. Food insecurity is a major issue, and has been delivering weekly groceries to 20 of our most vulnerable families during this time, from May until going all the way through December. And so that, in addition, with the Horizons at Home kits, every family, every student received a Giant Foods gift card to help with that.
That's really wonderful. We've also had just a wonderful experience with donors and new donors stepping in, and foundations being very responsive to the need to adapt. And we've really enjoyed funding to be able to create some new resources that we can provide at no charge to schools and educators, like a new virtual library of mindfulness practices on our website available to everyone to use, a Coping with COVID virtual lesson series for elementary school, sort of helping kids deal with the most pressing COVID-related emotional issues, anxiety, fear, and worry. And then, right now, our students are also grappling with our national reckoning on race. Like, there are a lot of questions out there, and this is in the middle of everything else that's going on. And so we brought forward the publication of a social justice lesson curriculum we've been working on for some time that is a complement to our core curriculum for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And all of those, thanks to two wonderful donors, like, we can actually make available for free. And that's been a really huge gift, as well as some new support for our educators. So that's just been, it's been really heartening. Our schools have appreciated that, and so have we.
Well, that's wonderful. I think certainly I've experienced, Brandelyn, I think that you said it so well, that this is bringing out the best in a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful for you all as colleagues, and also all the people who are coming out to support all of our organizations, and all the children, more importantly, who are going to need a little bit of help removing some barriers related to this virus. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, Paul and Emma, I saw your questions come through, but we are out of time. We're actually over time. And it's a possibility to cut us off. But certainly, Brandelyn, Mike, and Cheryl are all available. I'm sure your contact information is on your websites. And if you want to follow up individually, we're happy to have that conversation. We're about to take a 3-minute break. Yeah, it might be 2 minutes at this point because our conversation is engaging. But I'd like to thank all of you for all of your feedback and your insights about the education space in our region right now. And all of you can leave this session and then go to a new session. And you can take a break, get a drink, whatever you'd like to do between now and then. So thank you again for all of your insights, and looking forward to continuing to partner with you to create more equitable futures for children.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for coming.
Yes.
Appreciate it.